Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I am a registered nurse with extensive experience in hospice and palliative care. If you're new to this channel, welcome. This channel looks at different topics ranging from holistic nursing, which is looking a whole mind, body, spirit, and soul, hospice nursing, hospice caregiving, and caregiving for loved ones with dementia. If you like what you're seeing, like, comment, subscribe. As in previous episodes, I like looking at areas of being grateful, having gratitude. In the previous two episodes, we talked about anticipatory grief and grief. Anticipatory grief is where you know your loved one is going to die in the relative near future, which is very common on hospice. And you're grieving that loss in advance of the loss, and then grief, which is loss after the fact. They both operate in the same manner. And what I've shared in different episodes is that one of the ways to combat both anticipatory grief and grief itself is to have a grateful heart. Look at areas to be grateful for. And so in the previous episodes, just like now, I'd like to go over areas that I'm grateful for before we get to today's topic, which will be talking about books donated to a local library system and a new book in progress, The Art of Hospice Prognosis. So in terms of talking about areas of being grateful for, looking at from Friday of last week, Friday, February 7th to today, Wednesday, February 12th. And by the way, happy birthday to Rebecca's dad. Rebecca, I am so happy for your dad, you, your brother Dan, and your family. Rebecca and I have been in communication, and she followed through after some back and forth discussions about he's on a pureed diet. Can he have a cupcake? To the very strict healthcare professional, are you kidding me? It's not pureed. If you're pureed, he can have a cupcake. We're talking about a regular cupcake, not a pureed cupcake, not a squished with a fork cupcake, a regular cupcake. So we talked about it. We talked about what a waiver is. It's something you get signed at most facilities, removing the liability from them because there is a potential for choking. How to minimize the risk of choking, head as up straight as possible, having an LPN or an RN in the room. And Rebecca, I'm so proud of you. She made the decision to take 2 different cupcakes in different flavors so her dad could have a choice. It's his birthday. And a nurse there had a heart of compassion and said, yes, if it's cut into smaller pieces. And I'm so grateful for that nurse, whatever that nurse's name is, male or female. And Rebecca, I'm so happy for you and your family. In terms of my own areas of gratitude, looking from Friday to Wednesday, my wife got her first paycheck. She's working part-time at a local infra store. Those are stores focusing on organic, on healthy, almost no processed, if any, food. And so I'm so proud of my wife for getting a job, and this was her first paycheck that she received. And so I'm grateful for that. We also had Elite Performance Plumbing here yesterday, 2 different workers. One of them was here for close to 12 hours. We have a water filtration system in place now to make our city water not only more palatable, but more safe to drink. And Laura, who had a utility sink in every home that we live, now has a utility sink that wasn't in this house that we purchased. So that may be the last of the internal projects, other than we do have some drywall to fix up where they had to saw here and there. But I'm grateful for that. One of the reasons that we talk about being grateful, not just me, but I'm hoping that you examine in your life, what are you grateful for? Is that when we talk about anticipatory grief, grieving, and the storms that hit us in life, that just want to push us down in life. One of the ways of being resilient in those storms and in areas of grief is to have a heart of gratitude. If your heart is filled with light, and this is one of the reasons I like Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, what to focus our thoughts on. If our heart is filled with light and with gratitude, where is there room for darkness? Not saying it can't wiggle in and cause some sadness, but if you focus on the areas of what you're grateful for, what's positive in your life, you'll have more good days than bad, more ups than downs. So getting into today's topic of my wife and I, we made a decision. I'm so grateful for her, not only for writing a new book, Beyond the Hospital. We got her Arthur copy in. Beyond the Hospital, Navigating a Great Career in Hospice Nursing, for nursing students as well as for existing nurses, both LPNs and RNs. If you're considering a career in hospice and you wanted to know, is this for me? Yes, you could ask on different social media forums, but this goes a little bit more in depth about what to expect, as well as if you're a nursing student, how you might work with your clinicals and your courses to be better prepared. So when my wife had suggested writing that book, and we were walking downtown in the area where we live, looking for a gift for one of our neighbors back in Pennsylvania, she said, why not donate books to the local library? And that may not only help our local community, these are free, but may spark interest in the other books. So I ordered, went through the 41 books published, ordered 2 copies of 12, so that's 24, and just this past Monday took them to the local library. They have 2 different branches, that's why it's 2 of each, not Noah's Ark. And here I posted in 2 different community forums. Expect these to be out there. And I was pleasantly surprised from a hospice nurse, a hospice bereavement coordinator, as well as caregivers, including one diagnosed with cancer. And if you happen to be that caregiver watching this, and you remember sharing with me that you are the one diagnosed with cancer, I am praying for you. And as you shared in that discussion, you know God can heal you now, but if he doesn't, he'll heal you in heaven. I'm praying for either or. We serve a God who is working, who is able, and for all things are possible. So I'm keeping you in my daily prayers. Do not give up. Stand strong. Our hope is in Christ Jesus. So in a moment, I'll play the clip, as well as I started a new book about prognosis in hospice, and we'll go over that in a moment. So these are the books donated, along with their titles and URLs, along with the ebook cover for Art of Hospice Prognosis, the introduction, and a portion of one of the chapters. I will leave a list of the titles that I donated, along with their addresses on Amazon, in case you wanted to purchase a copy for yourself or a loved one. And there's also links for the overall books that I've written. So in terms of the book I'm currently working on, The Art of Hospice Prognosis. So most of the books I write are to answer questions and problem areas that I've noticed in the community at large. So in working with Rebecca and other nurses in different groups, now Rebecca's not a nurse, hi Rebecca, one of the areas I've noticed that there's a level of weakness is not all hospice nurses are comfortable answering the question of how much longer does my loved one have to live? And most recently, one of my friends, and yes, it's Rebecca, shared with me that she approached her hospice registered nurse case manager and asked how much longer does her dad have to live, and that nurse told her only the doctor knows. Well, there's a difference between a medical diagnosis such as COPD or chronic myeloid leukemia or congestive heart failure and a prognosis. So, in the field of nursing, nurses are not allowed to, it's not within our scope of practice to determine a medical diagnosis. We can confirm with a doctor, yes, we agree. Now, if we disagree, we better be able to have something to stand up. Granted, we cannot replace it. We just have to have a conversation with the doctor. Are you sure? Those are rare conversations, extremely rare. But when it comes to prognosis, prognosis is looking at, based on what observations that we make with all of our senses, our eyes, our ears, our touch, our sense of smell. Yes, odor is part of prognosis in hospice. The objective signs, such as the vitals and laboratory work, along with the extremely critical importance of in depth interviewing. I cannot stress enough that interviewing caregivers and family members is critically important in the skills of prognosis in hospice. Every hospice nurse should be able to give a prognosis. LPNs and RNs alike should be able to give a prognosis. I wish we lived in a world where there was no fine print, no little asterisks and footnotes down below. The asterisk when it comes to prognosis, whether it's from a doctor, from an LPN, from an RN, from a registered nurse practitioner, an advanced practice nurse, and I don't say this from the state of proselytizing, only God knows the exact date and time somebody dies. And I'm not saying this to offend atheists either. Only God knows. It is an art and there's a science to it, but the science only goes so far. So I am writing a book with the hope to help all nurses, not just Rebecca's nurse, but every nurse out there become more comfortable giving a prognosis. And so as of today, February 12th, I have 6 chapters drafted. For those of you who follow me, how am I writing all these books so fast? Well, this is all I'm doing for a living, so to speak, since June 14th when I got terminated unexpectedly. This is after I recovered from that. It did take me several weeks of just wow. And I tend to look at silver linings and try to be grateful. But that was a big shock for me to work through. And I'm still today working through because, I had my 8-year anniversary last week for being a registered nurse. And I'm so grateful my wife found work, but I'm still looking. And I was grateful when a chief nursing officer at a major hospital system in Louisville, I believe that's the pronunciation, not Louisville or Louisville, I think it's Louisville, messaged me on LinkedIn, am I looking for case management work? And I'm grateful that she reached out. I was actually impressed. This is the head honcho of this hospital from the nursing side. And I couldn't move forward because Louisville is like 2.5 hours from where we live. That's one way. That would be a 5-hour drive commute in the best of days. So it still hits me that I'm not working. But getting back to the prognosis, this is a very critical skill for every nurse to have. So I hope to impart through this book, and I'm writing so fast because it's not just 8 hours a day that I'm spending on writing. But I have 6 chapters in there. There's going to be 10 chapters in this book. I have to look whether I planned out 4 or 5 appendices, along with references and resources for where the source material. What's the source material for this book? Now, this book is a heart for me because when I started CompassionCrossing.info, one of the earliest articles that I wrote dealt with how do we know, and it focused on one of the most scientific guidelines that I do talk about in this book, and it goes over the velocity or the frequency of downward changes. So how fast, so you're hitting that accelerator, how fast are those downward changes happening? And there's rules of thumb, whether these changes are happening every 4 to 6 weeks has a meaning. If these changes are happening every 2 to 3 weeks, has a meaning. If they're happening every week, we're closer. And so that's one of the primary scientific methods to know how much longer. But there's also other areas in this book that will be discussed, looking at sleep as a way to prognose, looking at caloric intake as a way to prognose, looking at changes in the palliative performance scale as a way to prognose. So I'm hoping to finish this book between this week and next in terms of the draft. Do a very careful review. One of the things I noticed in just doing a re-review of the 5 chapters before I got into 6 is ever since I started using Microsoft Word on Mac, and maybe because this is first a Windows product, why did it turn the bullet points? I mentioned the last time I had to go through, these are filmed live, by the way, live videos, not edited. But it took, last book I wrote, it took my bullet points and it erased the bullet. So it had the indentation, but there was no little black mark. I started just double checking the first 5 chapters before I started the 6. And it took the bullet points and it turned it into like 3, 4, 5 for one point, and then in the indentation, 5, 6, 7, and all these different numbers. Like it wasn't one number, like 1, 2, 3. It just turned the bullet point into a series of like 3 to 4 numbers, and then the words that I wrote. And I don't have a virus, so I did scan for viruses and whatnot, but I'm still praying about, does God want me to get a desktop computer? I want to do God's will, not my own. I do miss having a desktop, but in all honesty, while I did use it predominantly for writing, but I'd play like Baldur's Gate 3 or Hogwarts Legacy or Cyberpunk 2077, and there's arguments for those who love Jesus, the violence and whatnot, and I'm not trying to debate that in this video. But the PC died, and I don't want to jump into just replacing it because of something I miss. I really want to hear from God. What does He want? So in the meantime, I'm writing on my MacBook Air and being grateful that I have one. So this is it for this video. I don't want to go too much further on. I value your time and I'm grateful. So if you like what you're seeing, subscribe. If you have questions, maybe you're questioning if you want to be a nurse. Maybe you're a nurse and you're wondering what's it like to be a hospice nurse, with the understanding right now I'm not working as one, but I did for over 6 years. The other portion of the nursing was in long-term care and cardiology. Maybe you have questions on books that I've written. Maybe there's something that doesn't make sense to you. You just don't agree with. You don't have to agree with what I write. And I'm not saying that to argue with you, but maybe you have something that I don't know that I could benefit from to update the book and make a change in an addition. And if you have been buying my books, especially if you're like Martin, hi Martin, or Tanya, hi Tanya, and you've made suggestions, you may find yourself as being one of the persons that the book's dedicated to, because I want to honor you in whatever you suggested and whatever you recommended. You matter to me, and I'm grateful. And when I'm able to, I want that to be more than words. So comment if you have questions or want to discuss something. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. God bless, and bye.